Welcome back to the Fostering Financial Victories podcast. So today I am joined by Rob Victor once again and special guest Josh Newton. So today, guys, we are going to talk through kind of the impact on small business owners that has happened in 2020. Right, so both of you being small business owners in different industries, I want to get your feedback as some of the first reactions that you may have taken once all the craziness started back in quarter one or February, March, kind of whenever it started. And really see how that's taken you from where you were then until where you are now, and what do you see going forward. So, Josh, give everybody a little bit of a heads up as kind of what you guys do from your business, kind of your story real quick.
Yeah, Josh Newton, Freedom Interiors Group. We run a commercial interiors group, which we focus on demo, metal framing, drywall, acoustical ceilings, and specialties, interior specialties and exterior claddings.
Okay. So in that essential world.
That is the essential world, right? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so back in February and March, kind of coming into 2020, things were rocking. Everybody's looking forward to a great year this year. And then all of a sudden, the world gets turned upside down. What was your first reaction to, hey, you guys got to stay at home now. You can't go to work, or you can't do these things that you were used to doing. What'd you do?
Initially in our industry, we really didn't see the crunch. We really didn't see the pressure, I don't believe. And we all thought this was the flu, or this was something that will too pass. And then we kept watching it evolve, and then it started changing some of the landscape of concerns. And I'm not sure with you guys, but with us and with our employees and people around us, we started having to manage more of the fear of the unknown, or what is this, and then we were deemed essential, so we were still working as well. So that was concern, I think, for the whole team and everybody that was working around us.
Yeah, I think, Rob, you could probably speak the same thing. We kept active, but
Yeah.
you had to change. It changed pretty drastically almost overnight as far as the way it was set up.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I just think the activeness of an essential business, I mean, you talk about construction, or you talk about, the financial world, financial planning world, stock market. I mean, unless they shut those things down, we still need construction, and we still need the stock market at some capacity. So I think the biggest thing was, do you go from a full-blown team in the office all the time to, hey, we're going to have 3 or 4 people in the office, and we're going to let some people work from home, right?
So Josh, your guys being on site, working in essentially the public, what did you guys change, if anything, from the onset to make them feel more comfortable, to make clients feel more comfortable, or did you do anything different?
We did. Obviously, initially things were changing as we got information on a weekly basis, sometimes daily basis. So we obviously followed CDC recommendations on, what should this look like for us? What should we put in place as far as protocols? Washing your hands, stay 6 feet apart. I mean, it's construction. It's hard to say, hey, we're just going to stay 6 foot apart.
Right.
So some of the guidelines were not realistic. We were essential. We did have the blessing of still being able to work.
Sure.
And that was a great opportunity to still be able to not be shut down and have everyone have to go home. We had a couple projects. We had like 16, 17 jobs going on at the time. Some projects would take more precautions, and they may have shut down for a period of time. We're working at one plant that shut down at one time, but then started back up. But everything else was still working. We were still required to work, but just different precautions. Okay. Washing your hands, making sure no one's coughing, no one had a fever.
Yeah, I didn't think about that part, that where you're doing the work at. If they shut down, you're kind of out. Even though you're essential, you're still
you have
out.
to send those guys home.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Interesting.
Yeah, let me, Josh, from my perspective, in our industry, things kept rolling. I will say that, our probably busiest time kind of came in the March, April timeframe, just due to the market moving, and people being more concerned about financial planning and what they were doing with investments. I know you had business stuff open, but what was the effect on new business for you all, kind of from the February, March timeframe to where, hey, our country was pretty much locked down for somewhere between 6 to 12 weeks, depending upon where you lived. What was that effect like?
I think we've been really blessed in the fact of we're growing 20-30% every year, and we've seen large growth patterns for our company individually. And we're still seeing growth and things happening, but I think part of the market slowed down. Some of these, some of the allotments that were in investors' hands, things that were going to happen anyway, that have moved forward with projects. I think some of the other opportunities, the upfit market, if people were on the fence whether they were going to sign leases and sign deals, a lot of that was just halted for a little while. So some of the impact we've seen immediate, and I think some of the long-lasting impact we're still pending, waiting on if they're going to move forward or not, because at uncertain times, people are not really willing to go dive in deep with some of these commitments.
You bring up a great point, because everything you're reading right now, especially with businesses and how much space and footprint they're planning to keep going forward, with the change that required everybody to essentially work from home for a lot of these businesses, now they're saying, man, we can get out of some of this office space. What does that do on your side when companies leave these big buildings? I assume that opens up a door for you to come in and probably make some changes for the next tenant that goes into that space. So I would see that as potentially a big opportunity in the face of, and people might be downsizing offices, because somebody's going to take that space, I would think.
Well, we would hope.
You would think so.
We would
wouldn't think
hope.
we'd have empty buildings just hanging around.
Yeah, I think what we've seen, it's changing the landscape, how people are able to do business. We've even had opportunities within the scope of someone working from home, estimating, project management, still taking calls, but working from home. It's increased technology, especially in our business. We work off of Microsoft Teams, so you can work off of Teams, do video chat, Zoom. There's a lot of different platforms that you can use.
Yep.
But it's obviously a concern for us if people are, the office market is moving strong. We're happy because we're getting new projects. What we've seen is a lot of that stuff has slowed down now. And I think everyone's kind of looking back and saying, hey, is this going to change the landscape 100%? Maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 50%.
Yeah.
How are we going to do business moving forward? I think we've also seen, and y'all can probably speak to this, from the start of this to now, everybody's like, well, this is going to change the landscape. Everybody can work from home.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, everyone still needs socialization.
Right, right.
We all can't live in cubes away from everybody and survive. So I think the dynamics change for sure, and we're asking new questions that we didn't ask before.
So do you think, I know, Rob, we saw this with our team. People worked from home for quite a while, and were pretty productive, like normal, routines. Didn't really see a drop-off tremendously like you would think when people just get scattered. So does that end up pushing people now to where there's more like shared workspaces in corporate buildings, right? So there's some of those in Greenville now. I would kind of wonder out loud, does that grow? Because now people, maybe they really don't want to work at home. Like for myself and Rob, you have young kids in the house.
Right.
It's pretty tough to work from home. So you got to get out and get somewhere, but you may not need a full building. So I wonder if that starts to grow.
Yeah, I think the work from home, I think there's certain industries, the tech world especially, that can continue to work from home. You take the construction business, it's pretty hard to do construction from your house on other people's stuff, right?
Challenging.
And I would even tell you, just from our team, when you've got a team of 18, 19 people and you're trying to work in tune with each other, it's just another email, it's another hopping into a Zoom call when you realistically could walk downstairs and have a 2-minute conversation. So now it's turning into 30 minutes and you're having to coordinate. So I do think you can be extremely efficient from home. And I do think there's certain industries out there that this is a win, right? And the technology has had to pick up. Even on our end, we've done a lot more Zoom, a lot more e-signature and stuff like that. Not as much face-to-face when it comes to that stuff. But our business, and I would assume your business too, Josh, a lot of what we do, we need to be face-to-face with people, for the trust factor, but also anytime you're dealing with big things and spending a lot of money on construction and or investing in financial planning, I want to know who I'm talking to, right? And me seeing you through a screen is awesome, but it's a whole lot better when I can see you face-to-face. So I think that's why our industries, especially our two industries, I can't see us ever, yours, no way, but ours, I can never see us working strictly from home.
No. And I think we're in the building business, but we're also in the relationship business,
Right.
and just like every business is. And so those relationships, those commonalities, those connectedness, you need all of that to make an effective team. We've got a great team that really dove in deep. It was, still obviously had to work through some of those concerns, but you still got to stay connected with your team, listen to them, especially through times like this, and find out their concerns may not have been brought up to you,
Right.
and listen to those concerns through times like this and try to figure that out together.
So when you made your first reaction and kind of made the shift to changing the way you guys do business, what didn't work? Did you do anything that you look back and say, man, that really did not work well at all?
What didn't work? Well, first off, when they asked everyone's got to work 6 foot apart, we were asked ourselves, how in the world is that going to happen?
Yeah.
Most of our guys have partners. You're in some sort of space with everyone.
Right.
That was difficult,
I bet.
for sure.
What about you, Rob? Did you see anything that we did that you look back and think, we probably learned from that?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the biggest thing on our end, again, was I just think the amount of time that it takes to get 3 or 4 or 5 people together on the same page, especially when you're talking through planning, man.
Yeah.
If you've got a planner that's working through a plan, and then you've got our investment team that's trying to coordinate with the planner, and then you've actually got the wealth coach that's trying to deliver the product, it just takes so much more time than everybody being in a room and all working in tandem. So, I mean, yes, you can do it through Zoom, but, internet's spotty sometimes. Sometimes you can't hear people. Sometimes you got kids in the background, especially on Erik's side. So I just think it's just we were just not as efficient.
Yeah.
We were still running at probably an 85-90% clip, but we need to be running at 100% efficiency when it comes to what we do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of danger in falling into that trap where people are really excited about working from home after they've done it for a while. You mentioned it earlier, the socialization aspect, right? So a lot of these companies that'll end up sending all their team working remotely all over the country, and then they start losing that interaction capability. What ends up going on there from a building of culture and try to keeping that in place?
Yeah,
I think it's almost impossible.
You
at
said
that
it
point.
best. I think it's culture, right? I mean, could you continue to grow your business the way you want to, with the culture you want? I mean, you think about your industry, and I think it's similar to ours. There's a lot of construction people out there, and people want to be with you because of culture and what you've
Sure.
built, right? And now you send people home, and you're like, where is the culture? Like, I have no interaction from a culture perspective. So I know for our side of it, it's definitely, that's the biggest thing. Like, our culture was super impacted by people working from home for 8 weeks.
Sure. I think it gives the opportunity for leadership to step up, for sure, and try to figure out, okay, now this is the new landscape. How do we continue keeping that culture, that tight-knit group together? It puts a lot of pressure on leaders, especially as things change and things have evolved in the last quarter. What does that look like now? What worked 2 months ago, what we thought was the right answer 2 months ago, may not be the right answer today.
Oh, yeah.
And being able to pivot and to switch and to say, hey, this is not working, we need to do something else in that manner.
And I think you have to be able to be honest with yourself as well and not be tied to that first decision.
Most definitely.
Right? So I think that's a hard part for just human nature. You made the decision, you felt really good about it, and now it's backfired, and you don't want to go back on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably been one of the biggest wins outside of the tech stuff from this whole thing. Is I think you've gotten people that have learned to adapt and be more nimble and have to make decisions. Like you said, I mean, it's like 24-hour things were changing, and we're still seeing things change today, and you look at just in the last week, you've got North Carolina and Notre Dame brought students back, and now they're sending them home. I just think there's so much change going on that if leaders can't adapt, they're probably not going to be in that leadership role for much longer.
And people will lose respect, I think you have to come with your team and let them understand, say, hey, everyone's doing the best job that we can, making those decisions that we can for your safety, for the safety of the company, and for everyone, and to say, hey, we're going to have to switch gears here compared to what's going on and see what's working. So, the person that wanted to work from home, but it's got kids at home, and we got little Sally tugging on their shirt the whole time when they're trying to do something.
Yeah.
Believe me, I've been there.
Yeah, it's tough.
Dogs barking in the background, all that dynamic sometimes just doesn't work as far as focus goes.
Yeah.
And being okay coming back saying, hey, working from home did not work. Can I do something else, right?
Yeah.
But I think everyone having an open mind going into this saying, hey, here's the goal, right? This is where we're after. We're trying to keep everyone safe. We're still trying to function. How we do that's going to change. The journey along there may adjust some here and there.
Yeah, I think people just have to be understanding now to say it's not going to be routine. Spoke with Paul last episode about goals and trying to attack the things that you were really focused on at the start of the year, and really his whole consensus and thought was just keep the ball moving.
Yeah.
Just keep it moving forward. Eventually, we'll get to a routine again. It's just when is that going to happen, and who's going to drive the train while you're trying to get to that point. I think that's the biggest takeaway. And with Rob, with us, we moved offices in the middle of all this stuff, right?
I think the biggest thing, pushing the ball forward, routine. But I think it's just you got to become super comfortable with the uncomfortable, and things right now are very uncomfortable.
That's true.
And it doesn't matter if it's home life, business stuff, social interaction. I mean, it's just uncomfortable. So until you can get comfortable with being like this is going to change, and I'm going to feel like don't like what's going on. I think that's where we've got to get to, right? The process is super important. Doing the things that you need to do, and people, they tend to look, and I always go the athletic route, but they tend to look at these elite athletes and they see them winning championships and things like that. And what they don't see is the process along the way, the hard work, right? So people that can stick to the process, they love what the process produces. The problem is they don't know how long they got to stick to the process, so they veer away from it. So I just think this, for me right now, I've been in my mind just trying to get really comfortable with this new process of being uncomfortable. And I'm like, I don't know how long I'm going to be uncomfortable for, but I don't really like how it feels. I'm just going to just keep trying to do it.
Yep.
But
you got to be okay with that. And I think once you're okay with that, then it changes the dynamic. Say, hey, this is just going to be uncomfortable. The expectation is this is going to be a little uncomfortable for a little bit, or maybe for a lot of it. It may be a longer-term process, but going into it with that expectation, I think changes the game a little bit, because then you're not used to the same norm. You're not having the expectation that this is the norm. Not knowing what the norm is, like, hey, we're going to go into it. The goal, the process, what our functions are, focusing on those, focusing on the systems, and not necessarily the goal in mind. But hey, give your team a standard. You're saying this is what our focus on. We're going to keep everyone safe. This is the protocols, and then we're going to make it through to the end, one way or another.
Big opportunity for growth, really, from a business perspective and from an individual's point of view. So with the business, if you guys can make the right decisions now, and it pays off, and you're left standing at the end of all this, big opportunity to pick up market share.
Yeah, I mean, adversity is a phenomenal thing, right? It either causes people to break or to break records, as far as the quote goes, right? I mean, I think the cream rises during times like this, and I think we've had a good 7, 8, 9, 10 years, especially in America, where everybody's had a lot of good going on. So I think we've got some adversity now, and you're going to see our business, your business. There was a lot of businesses inside of our worlds that were there that may not be there at the end of this, and some of it's due to leadership, some of it's due to change and adaptability. But I like the opportunity. I like a little bit of struggle sometimes. I don't like a lot of it, and I don't want it to last for a really long time. But I like a little bit of it.
Just a little bit of uncomfortableness.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you guys see anything from the adjustments that you made over the last 6 months that when everything, quote unquote, goes back to how it used to be, if that ever could happen, anything that you would take forward, whether it be a change in business practice, whether it be personality, whether it be internal, anything that you are going to continue to take forward from this?
I think being very serious about safety from our point of view, or serious about people's health and how we function is a commonality between everyone now. and how we protect ourselves, regardless if it is COVID-19, if it is the flu,
Sure.
Of how we protected people. We've in sense done some things with our health benefits as well for our team, just to make sure we've kind of looking over shepherding our flock good.
What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a business, yeah, I definitely echo what Josh said, but I think from a business perspective, at the end of the day, we've gotten a lot better with tech stuff. And I think we were always trying to get there, with Foster Victor, and I think this whole thing caused us to just be like, hey, we got to do it. So I just think from the tech world, whether it's GoToMeeting or Zoom calls or any type of e-application stuff, I think our team's gotten a lot better with those things. And I think we would have gotten there. It just may have been another 6 months to a year or a year and a half, and this has just caused it to be quicker. So from my perspective, I think we've just gotten a lot more efficient when it comes to that type of stuff.
So I think you're right, dead on with the technology piece. So we talked about this before. As much as it was progressing before, it almost feels like it has hit like a overdrive with what's been produced from this last 6 months on the technology side. Do you think that greatly impacts businesses' ability to grow in a positive way, or like how do they take advantage of this even in the uncertain times? Like what could they do?
I think from our point of view, I mean, we've got guys that work for us that's been building buildings for 20, 30 years, right?
Right.
Where they would use a water level at one time to on site, compared to switching from there to a laser to now they have tablets with all electronic drawings on it and managing the project from that perspective. So I think there's always hesitancy to spend the money, to spend the time, and to learn new things with technology, right? There's always I don't really want to.
That sounds familiar.
Right. It happens all the time.
Yeah, that's me for sure.
But when we're pushed to,
Yeah.
when we're required to, later on we'll see the benefit of it. And we'll think, oh, thank goodness that we went that route. Because I think it's really pressed forward for us on the technology end of, hey, this would be a great opportunity to dive in deep and figure out how we can do things a little differently and leverage that technology for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I kind of view it very similar to our transportation, market in our country and across the world, right? I mean, I think, when the airline industry really came out and was functioning, you would think that people would fly everywhere, but people still drive cars, people still take trains. So what I don't want to do is say, hey, all this technology's here, let's use it all, right? And we veer away from some things that we were able to do efficiently because this new technology is there. So I think you've got to have a good balance of saying, hey, this stuff is really impactful for us, but we got to keep doing the things that made us super successful before.
From a planning standpoint, so what I'm hearing is the biggest takeaway is as you're challenged to make decisions with an unknown end result, don't be scared to make an adjustment along the way. That seems to be the predominant theme that both of you have experienced thus far. And I think that can go as well with personal planning, just the same, right? So you've heard this before, don't abort completely, right? Make an adjustment to whatever you're trying to accomplish and see what you can do moving forward, even though it's pretty challenging right now, right? Uncertainty of kids going to school, what are you going to do with work? I mean, there's too many things to even throw at a dartboard right now, it seems.
Yeah, and I would echo kind of what you're saying, but also I think Josh can relate to this. I mean, I think that's why the process and the plan that you put in place when you're non-emotional is so important, right? I mean, if you've got a good roadmap in place and you're non-emotional about it, when emotion comes in, you can be like, hey, we planned and we're going to be non-emotional about making adjustments, and we thought about those things, whether it's in the business setting, right, or in the planning setting.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've got this, I heard this saying a long time, when emotion is high, discernment is low. And even with our planning with you guys, we've kind of had this same mantra of, when your emotions are high, you're not really planning, or you're not really planning at that time, you're just making decisions off the cuff. But now, if anybody's got the opportunity now to double down on planning, to trying to put some plan, even if it changes, right?
Sure.
But plan, so that way it takes the stress out of what ifs. And that way you plan for those what ifs, And if you have to replan or think again, hey, that's great, but you've made a plan. Take some of those stresses off.
Yeah, and be okay knowing you can adjust course.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's not that you don't have to do it once and forget about it.
Almost
You-
expect it.
Yeah, expect to make changes. Probably numerous ones for the rest of the year.
That's right.
All right. So, anything else that you guys have found throughout this whole thing that you think our listeners would find value in from experience from either personal or professional standpoint that maybe we haven't talked about? And it's okay if you haven't. I think we've talked about a lot of things here, but just going to give you one more chance there.
For me, I think what I've learned is sometimes just listening, especially to your team, your family, of listening to those concerns, because your concerns at the time may not be matching of the people in your community, people around you, your team, may not be their concerns. And then if you really want to know your team, sit down and just listen. Listen to what their stresses are, what their thoughts are, their fears are. And I think that helps cultivate a better culture around you, not just within business, but your whole environment, because everyone's got different challenges.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I started to initially think about just, your relationships with people. And again, anytime you have uncomfortable stuff that creeps in and emotion that creeps in, the relationships that you have are super important. And I think about, my wife, for example, her whole thing through this pandemic has been completely different than mine. Her concern has been around our kids, friends, school, and how is this having an effect on our two kids? Whereas I've been like, hey, what is going on with clients, with our team?
Yeah.
And you've got to do a good job of listening to both sides and seeing really what is important, not only in the business setting, but the personal setting, the friend setting. So I think mine would be just relationships. Hopefully out of this six-month period, and it could be longer, we don't know how long it's going to be, that you see how important relationships really are, right?
And I think your focus as well. I mean, you're going to get whatever you focus on.
Sure.
So if you focus on the bad, you're always going to look for the bad. You're going to get the bad. But if you can adjust your focus and know the bigger picture, that process, that planning, all the things that we've talked about, I think it can calm down some of the stressors that is brought this year.
Yeah.
Good feedback. All right, so I'm going to switch gears on you a little bit. Hopefully Rob didn't tell you this.
I did not.
So this is the surprise part of this. So we've asked everybody these same two questions who've come and joined us. First one's going to be, if you could buy anything in the world, no matter what it cost, what would it be and why?
If I could buy anything in the world, what would it be and why? Wow. Have you already answered this one?
I've already
so
answered
Rob wants to be able to teleport. That
Yeah,
was his thing.
mine's teleport.
Yeah.
Teleport.
Yeah.
Man, that would be
Surprised I remember
kinda
that,
neat.
didn't
Yeah.
Well, I have hang glided before, and the feeling of flying
Okay.
is amazing. That's really amazing. So I'm going to say I want to be a bird so I could fly away, but I think just off the cuff, being able to fly would be
That'd
amazing.
be pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. So last two things you spent money on.
Last two things I spent money on. Planning and investments, probably.
There we go.
Bit of parlay.
That's saving, by the way.
Yeah, it's saving right now. And then I guess our biggest thing right now is our house.
Okay.
So we're building a house and creating an environment for my family, yeah.
Very cool. All right. So take a minute, tell everybody how they can reach out to you if they want to know more about your business or if they want to inquire about what you guys do.
Yeah, sure. So Josh Newton, Freedom Interiors Group. We focus on demo, metal framing, drywall, and acoustical ceilings, and exterior claddings. You can call us at 864-304-2630. It's 864-304-2630. And we serve Greenville area, Spartanburg to Clemson, within an hour from this area. So
Very cool.
reach out to us.
Very cool. All right. So if you have any questions, comments, suggestions for any topics going forward, you can find us on our website at fostervictorwa.com. You can email us directly from there. You can also follow us on Instagram. Foster Victor Wealth Advisors is our tag there. Thank you for spending some time with us. Please subscribe and share this with somebody you think might find helpful. Thanks for spending time with us, guys. I appreciate it.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks.
Eric.
Information contained in this podcast was intended for general use, not to be used as specific advice. For content tailored to your personal situation, please contact one of our wealth coaches.